All right, welcome back to FedRAMP at 5, where we talk about all things FedRAMP in about 5 minutes. I'm your host, Jason Shropshire, and today I've got Ryan Adcock with me, and we'll be discussing.
Today, Jason, we're going to be discussing some recent changes that we're seeing in the FedRAMP space and the DoD space. Specifically, we want to talk about the wait times and authorization timelines we're seeing in both the FedRAMP and the DoD space. And also, in regards to the recent memo from the OMB, Memorandum 2415, we want to talk about the reciprocity between the FedRAMP authorization programs and the DoD authorization programs. So with those being our topics today, let's get started with, Jason, in your experience, what are you seeing currently for the authorization wait times for the FedRAMP program?
Yeah, it's interesting. Traditionally, we've seen the wait times increase some here recently, right? For the FedRAMP path. And we think that a lot of that has to do with the reorganization going on with the GSA around the FedRAMP program, some changes up in leadership, the law being passed, and the program is kind of idle and waiting a little bit on the guidance to come out from OMB that the law required. But now we're starting to see some movement there. But really, in the past year, those times have been increasing. Especially the time in the queue has been increasing.
Right, and typically what we've seen for recommendations to CSPs that want to do both FedRAMP and DoD is they're encouraged to do FedRAMP first, right, and then the DoD PA process.
Yeah, and that has changed a little bit over time, but that's generally been the rule, right?
Right.
Especially if it's IL2, especially, for a while the DoD was just saying, at least all the commands that we were working with was saying, really just get FedRAMP moderate and use the reciprocity memo that allows all FedRAMP moderates to be IL2. Once that came out, that was kind of their go-to. Like, we don't want to do IL2s anymore. We just want FedRAMP to handle that, and we'll accept that, right, in that one direction.
Right.
So I mean, that's always been the established path, but that set up a problem, because if you wanted to be in both marketplaces, but let's say that you only had a sponsor, within DoD for IL4, for example, then you had an issue, because you really didn't have an easy way to get that back into the marketplace, unless that DoD sponsor was willing to help you get that also onto the FedRAMP marketplace side. That was difficult. So you kind of had to have two sponsors, one on the Fed Civ side and then one on the DoD side, if you wanted to end up in both marketplaces.
Right. So for CSPs that have and have already gone down the path of the DoD provisional authorization process, how does that impact their FedRAMP journey now?
Well, based on what the movement that we've seen with the law being passed and the guidance coming down from the memorandum and the modernization roadmap that came out, I think that we see that there now looks like a better pathway to move in that direction.
Right.
Yeah, so that's very, very promising and encouraging for folks that are coming in that pathway.
There's also some language that we see in the M2415 that talks about any other paths to authorization in the FedRAMP program. And so what that starts to lead us to believe in our interpretation is that there's going to be some reciprocity between having a DoD PA and being able to be listed in the FedRAMP marketplace. Is that accurate?
Yeah, absolutely. It sounds to us like, and we even heard this in conference calls with the DoD, that they're aware of this coming down from OMB, and it sounds like they're still ironing out some of how it's going to work. But it does sound like they're aware of it, and it will be happening. And then we saw in the modernization roadmap very clearly this low review process that they allude to. And we have a separate video about this as well that we'll link from here. But this low review process specifically calls out this pilot with the DoD. So in other words, they're going to trust DoD as an authorizing one of these authorization groups, right? and it should just require kind of a low QA check to take that package and then apply that to the marketplace and have that offering be listed in a marketplace.
Right. Yeah, because one of the requirements for doing a DoD PA is you're meeting those FedRAMP baselines, right? So that lends the ability to have that reciprocity between these two authorizations, and I think that's going to be a big impact for CSPs moving forward that are already DoD authorized and want to get into the FedRAMP marketplace and get listed there.
Yeah, the exciting part to me is, and this isn't always the case, but we've had a couple of customers this past year on the DoD side that the review times have been very fast, and way faster than what we were used to a few years ago. With DISA and the commands and getting through, and I think the mileage varies a lot depending on the command and who's pressing down, making things happen and making greasing the skids. But when you combine those lower wait times that we've seen with the ability now to get back into the FedRAMP marketplace, I think we see a whole new pathway for ATOs now to get through and maybe avoid some of the logjam on the FedRAMP side, right? By going through the DoD process and ending up back in the marketplace.
Wow. I mean, that seems like a big game changer for CSPs that are in the DoD space currently.
Yeah. I mean, it certainly has that potential to be. We'll see as we see signs of this, and I think that we're going to press on this idea of if we find the right customer partners, we'll press on this idea of this pilot and being involved in that because I think that's going to be a huge help of bringing innovative cloud services into government and allowing that at scale with reciprocity is the way to go. So it's great to see that things are moving this direction.
Right. It's great to see this kind of reciprocity back between the DoD and the FedRAMP. It's going to open the space up for a lot of CSPs.
Well, cool. Well, thank you so much for tuning in, and hope this was informative, and feel free to reach out. Thanks so much.